It is cold in Memphis. Probably nice in Ocala. I didn't look at the weather. I got it on the app.
It's cold. It's like 32 degrees. Hard freeze warning tonight.
Yeah, we're in the 20s here, and it's cold. Look, everything's going to be great, though. We got Mr. College Football, one of the best people, smartest people, and just the best people. Tony Barnhart checking off, batting in the leadoff spot. Followed up in the second half by Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider TV, Tighter Insider. A lot to talk about. If you'll do us a favor, we'll be so grateful. Take a picture with your phone of the QR codes and subscribe, share, and like us. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 8 channels of live streaming. That is incredible that we do this every day. 8 shows on this channel, more coming. The Hour of Power is underway. It's going to be a great day. I know everybody's excited. New Year's about to be here. The time to start your New Year's resolutions is now. Don't wait until January 1st. Get started. Don't wait to be great, as Sugar used to say. Tony, didn't mean to cut you off in the pre-deal, but man, it is a great time. You're talking about your mom, and this is the 50th year. I remember her telling you that's a good number.
Yeah, that's a good.
But we got you're like the annual rites of fall when you're out here talking about college football. And I read a lot and listen to a lot of motivation and psychology. The smartest thing I've heard is treat the word impossible as motivation, and along the way to the top, any and everybody out there that you can think of, not everybody, but most of them, are going to try and tell you it's not realistic. You can't get it done. Can't get it done. Let's talk about college football. We're all frustrated. We don't the rosters. We need Brendan's going to put the ticker like on Wall Street underneath there with the rosters of the teams. Right now, who has got who? But here's what we do know: Georgia, my preseason pick to win the SEC, and my pick to win the whole thing, is in a good position. They play Ole Miss. And then we've got Alabama playing Indiana. We'll go to that one next. But thank you, as always, for sharing time with us.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rob. One thing before we move forward, I don't want to – you and I talk a lot of history.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be the last printed edition of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution after 157 years. Tomorrow, December 31, will be the last day. It'll be the last day. When I came back to Atlanta in 1984, I renewed my subscription to the newspaper. And ever since 30, 40 years, I've gotten the paper. So tomorrow will be the last time I walk up my driveway and pick up the morning paper.
Well, it
rings true when you have a kid and you're trying to teach her about what newspapers were. And she's like, what? So they delivered it to the door? I was like, yeah, my dog can tell you which color paper came. The Denver Post was in the blue one, and the Rocky Mountain News was in the orange bag, and my lab could differentiate the two in the snow. She thought that was the craziest thing. I was like, that was what we waited for. My 6th grade teacher used to read my father's article every day before class in the morning, and that was like a thing.
Well, and Tony, just like what Brendan said, it's, more schools than you realize are going away from the laptop back to textbooks.
Our schools are going more tech. In fact, we're going more AI. And in fact, the textbooks are actually going to have AI now in each book. So you'll be able to teach and read as you go. So the AI will, whatever book you give the AI, then they'll be able to detect if they have a learning disability, if there's something wrong, and then the AI will then change its curriculum as it goes for the child. So
Tony, along that line, you said it's the last Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It can always come back, but it'll be online, correct?
Yeah, everything's still online, has been for a long time. But those of us newspaper junkies who have to have that paper in their hand with that morning cup of coffee, that's the transition.
Yeah, and then you learn by underlining. Tony, Georgia and Ole Miss, they met back in October. Georgia won the game. Ole Miss scored on their first 5 drives. What's changed the most about each team in your mind?
What's changed the most about Ole Miss is their head coach is no longer there, and and listen, the guy who's calling the plays is still calling the plays, and that you got but it's different. I don't care how you try to explain it away; it's different when your head coach is not there. Yeah. For Georgia they beat Ole Miss in Athens in a very impressive game. I was there, but they have improved dramatically since that game, and now they are playing. Their game against Alabama, guys, for the SEC championship was one of the better games I've seen the University of Georgia play in a long, long time. So they've gotten a lot better. And Rob, you picked Georgia. I picked Georgia. My first speech every year is to the Terry College of Business at the University of Georgia.
Yep.
And I picked Georgia to win it back in June. So,
well, in the thing, and when you spoke to the Touchdown Club in Memphis, your PowerPoint presentation is always the kickoff for football. You know, the thing about Georgia in the last 6 weeks, is anybody playing better defense?
No. Just look what they've done. The third down conversion rate, I don't have it in front of me, but it's ridiculous how good it's been for Georgia. So it's going to be now. Ole Miss has got a lot to play for. Yeah. They got a lot to play for, and there's a lot of tradition in the Sugar Bowl and Ole Miss and all that. So I think Georgia's going to win the game. But I think it's going to be a close game.
You look at Alabama now. The history, it's unbelievable. 18 national titles, and I know people question some of them, but I looked up, they could count 27. Indiana never even sniffed the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest program in the history of college football. You look at the stars, Alabama's 14 5 stars, 53, 55 fours, and 17 threes. Indiana's roster, 0 5 stars,
mm-hmm.
4s, and 55 threes, and then some just unranked, and they're a 6-point favorite. Does that tell you a lot about where we are in college football and what kind of coach Kurt Cignetti is?
Well, first of all, Indiana is exhibit A of what NIL and the transfer portal has meant to college football. It's that Indiana's not possible without those two things being in place. Indiana will still be good. Kirk Cignetti's a very good coach. We all know that. Yeah. But to be number one and playing for the national championship, that's it shows it can be done. And for all future teams, it was funny. We were halfway through the season, and somebody asked me at a speech, who is this year's Cincinnati? Who is this year's Indiana? Yeah. And I said, well, looks like it's going to be Indiana, guys.
Yeah, that's right. That is absolutely. And here's another cool thing when you think about it. Who would have taken a bet? I said this yesterday with Cordelli, Coach Pete, and Ellis Johnson and Dave Bartu on preseason. Alabama's going to be. They're going to win a first-round playoff game on the road at Oklahoma, and they're going to have only one game the whole season where they have a 100-yard plus rusher.
Yeah, it's amazing. Every game Alabama's played, well, they can't run the ball, so they're going to lose. Well, by my recollection, they've only that hasn't hurt them yet. So yeah. I am of all the games on the board, and the quarterfinals are great, but the Indiana-Alabama game in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. In the Rose Bowl, the reference to the Rose Bowl is in the Alabama fight song. We all know how big this is a big deal for both teams, obviously, and it's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and Alabama 100 years ago was the number 4 choice for Rose Bowl. Nobody else wanted to go. It was too big a trip. 8-day train trip. And Rodney Orr and Gary Harris are on here with us a lot, cover Alabama. Roses of Crimson about that train trip. That have you ever seen that?
I have not seen that. But remember, getting to a bowl game, that was the big deal. I mean, when Georgia went to the Rose Bowl in '42, that long train ride to play UCLA in the Rose Bowl. So it's this is for us historians, this is a big deal.
And you think about that 42. When Auburn beat number 1 Georgia, 27-13, Ralph Shug Jordan, his son, and I read it in the autobiography by Rich O'Donnell, said, Shug landed at Omaha Beach and took a frag from an 88 millimeter. And Ralph Jr. told me this story. 4 days later, wanders into a tent hospital with blood all over him. And the doctor says, as the captain said, he said, "Captain, why didn't you come in here and get help? He said, well, sir, I'm an engineer. We had to build a road to get our boys up on this beach so we can win this damn war and get back home to Alabama. He said, you're from Alabama? He said, yeah. He goes, where from? He goes, Selma. He said, I'm from Mobile. He said, we got to talking about, where'd you go to school? He said, API, Auburn. And he said, I did too. And they started talking, and Shook said, I damn near bled to death on the operating table talking about Auburn beating Georgia. So, I mean, you go back to the history. That game, what that meant to the South, Tony.
Yep.
And you know, in your book, I don't know what's going to be in there, but every school in the South wrote letters supporting Alabama, pulling for them to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
Look at, and secretly, I think we all still do. That's what makes the SEC so special to this day, whether we want to admit it or not.
Well, we're bonded by, as I said, we are bonded by a common enemy. So, that's why these games are so much fun. You know, for all, again, I don't know how many times I've said it on your show, Rob, is that the game is so good. It is so rich with history.
Yeah.
Even us adults can't screw it up.
Yeah.
And we're having a great, and you know what? I'm going to be surprised if we don't go to 16 teams next year. And think about this, 16 teams next year. The first round will be 8 home games.
Yeah.
And that's going to be incredible.
And you know, when Texas A&M lost in that first round to Miami, they went down to literally the last play, basically. Do you think A&M fans were disappointed they didn't get to go on a road trip to a bowl, the team at least, and travel somewhere for a week? Or was that, I would think that was possibly the biggest sporting event in that school's history.
Yeah, I'm sure they were disappointed. You know, and that's the other side of the sword when you get a bye. When you get a bye, that's great. You got a bye, but you miss out on playing. You miss out on playing on campus, and you may miss out on yet another game. So it's but on balance, I think it's been good. We've got another conversation we're going to have about the group of 5, group of 6, whatever you want to call it. We've got to have that conversation, and it's going to be painful, and some tough decisions may need to be made. But we got to deal with that at some point.
What's your stance on, you know, the debate? And Jackie Sherrill and Buddy Martin 30 plus years ago, and you too saw this coming. And yep. Jackie Sherrill said on our show this summer, he could foresee the top teams and Notre Dame, 65, let's say, and then the other 66 having their own playoff. He said it would be just as important to them. I'm not really in favor of that because I think it's the same reason why we love March Madness.
Right.
Because of those underdogs. I mean, that's Horatio Alger. I mean, that's America at its finest.
Yeah. Well, and first of all, I keep telling my friends, well, let's just not let the little guys play. I said, well, this thing called antitrust law, and how much have we talked about antitrust law? You can't give them no access. Yeah. Now you have to give them some access. You may have stipulations on that access. Maybe you have to be ranked in the top 16 to be in the pool. I don't know, whatever, but you can't just make a decision and say, well, we're not going to let the group of 5 participate in the college football playoff. Can't do it. Well, you can do it. You're going to get sued and you're going to lose. So figure out a way there's got to be a compromise between getting 2 teams from the group of 5. The law of unintended consequences. How many times does that happen? You got to find some compromise between 2 teams getting in and 1 team getting in. So,
yeah. And just for reference to the younger members of the audience, Horatio Alger is not currently eligible.
No.
That was the one David Housel used to reference in Buddy Davidson about teams that were huge underdogs. I always remember that figure. All right. So you look down in Miami, you got Oregon and Texas Tech playing in the Orange Bowl. Mm-hmm. And what Dan Lanning, he's from Olathe, Kansas, suburb of Kansas City. What he's done at Oregon is they've just continued to pass the baton. You know, you had Willie Taggart, that wasn't great. And Mark Halford, they thought they could just do next man up. You know Dan Lanning. Mm-hmm. What do you think's going on in his mind right now? Because I remember when he and Mike Norvell and Ryan Silverfield and Chris Ball and Kenny Dillingham, all those guys were on the staff at the University of Memphis. It was 2016.
Well, first of all, if Dan Lanning wanted to go to greener pastures, he could have gone a long time ago. But yeah. The reality is that Oregon is pretty darn green.
Yeah.
You know, do you have the resources? Yep, we have resources and then some. Yeah. And he's a very, you know, I got to know Dan when he was working for Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
And he was a very, very impressive guy. And you knew he was going to be a head coach and have a whole lot of success.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's looking around at all these people and said, you know what? What did Al McGuire say? Don't mess with Happy. And that's what he's got a great situation with everything he needs. And I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what the job would be to get him out of Oregon, because you'd be leaving behind unlimited resources, and resources are pretty darn important these days.
Yeah. Well, I think about everybody's got to wear shoes. And a lot of people wear Nike shoes. It's like when I'm selling water and sewer revenue bonds, everybody's got to flush their toilet. I mean, they're going to pay that bill. So now you look at Texas Tech. I don't know if you've ever met Cody Campbell. We all hear things about him, but sold an oil and natural gas company. I think it was like $4.5 billion was his part. And he literally saw on social media and heard the cries of help and pleading from the Texas Tech fan base. We need players. What do you want? He got it. And I don't know how much they spent. And by the way, Tony, are we expected to believe these figures that are released on NIL? Do you believe that they're authentic, or are they audited?
I have no reason to think that they're not telling the truth, but I would treat all of this stuff with a big grain of salt. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's, people are going to say what they're going to say. And I'm just, the thing about it is, if I work in the building at one of these big time universities, is this really the number, or what's the number? That's when my job is to find out what the number is. If Georgia's paying this for their roster, that's what I need to know, because I've got to, if I'm in the SEC, I got to compete with Georgia on all different levels. So let's just say we're skeptical. As one of my mentors used to say, always be skeptical, but never be cynical.
Yeah.
So I'm skeptical about these numbers.
Yeah. Question authority, trust but verify. That was Reagan and Gorbachev at Reykjavik in '87. All right. I got to ask about Miami and Ohio State. Pete Cordelli brought it up yesterday. Little change in continuity, and that's Bartu's big thing. Ryan Day going to be calling plays. That's going to be different. No matter what people say, it's going to be different. And Miami's defense is pretty salty, and they're running the ball about as 218 yards on that A&M defense, which that was the fifth time they gave up over 200 yards. What happens in Dallas?
I think when all's said and done, Ohio State's going to win. I've talked to a lot of my friends who really like this Miami team. They're very physical. Miro Cristobal has done a very, very good job, but I like this Ohio State team. And Ryan Day is going to be calling the plays. You know what? They won't miss a beat. Yeah. I mean, people forget that Ryan Day called the plays over all these years. The last time he called the plays was that famous semifinal game between Ohio State and Georgia at the Peach Bowl in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Ohio State duck hooked the winning field goal at the end.
Yeah.
Ohio State would have probably won another national championship. So I don't think they lose anything with Ryan Day calling the plays. Good for him. He knew that his offensive coordinator was probably had too much on his plate.
Yeah.
You let me take this.
Yeah.
I think I like Ohio State. I think they're very well coached.
You think they win that game?
I do.
Okay. All right. So those 8 teams right there, if you had 16, like you said, it goes longer. Are we serious when we hear talks about maybe taking one regular season game away or starting the season earlier, mid-August, late August? I mean, is that a possibility?
I think all that's on the table.
Okay.
Which way would you rather do it? You still get the calendar is still the same, because instead of having a group of 4 teams with a bye week for the opening for the first round, the calendar basically stays the same. So the question is, do you want to start the season a week earlier, or do you want to do you do away with conference championship games? You just got to find a way to make enough room for all those Saturdays, and I think they'll figure it out. Again, I'm January 31, January 23 is the deadline. If they're going to make a change, if they don't make a decision, then we're 12-team playoff for the foreseeable future.
What's your gut feeling on the decision?
I think they'll go to 16. I think after what we've been through this year, they'll absolutely go to 16, because that addresses some concerns, and they'll tweak what they're doing the group of 5. But I think I've heard too much positive feedback of 16 after what we've been through this year. 16 is the logical place to go.
I remember when this was going down, we were talking to Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer said, right when the 12 team was announced, he said, we'll be at 16 next year. He right away, he just said, it's not going to work out. 16, he thought 16 would be a much better number.
Tony, you covered basketball when you lived up in Greensboro. You started out covering the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
Ellis Johnson made a good point to me. He's been in Carolina. Of course, he's coached 43 years. There are two things he said that the ACC has stuck to. The 800 on the SAT for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember taking the SAT. I took the ACT one time. Now kids start taking it in 7th grade. It's just different. Second thing he said was Chapel Hill stood on their hill for way too long that basketball was everything. And when you look at the numbers, Texas, brings in for football some years over 200 million. Ohio State, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The largest revenue of any college basketball team in the country, the last report I saw was Kansas at just over 38 million.
Right. Well, my dear friend Wes Durham,
Yeah.
We said this all the time. Inevitably, all schools must face this. Do you or do you not want to be in the football business? Okay. And it's okay if you don't want to be in the football business, but don't delude yourself into thinking you are in the football business if you're not making the commitment that the Auburns and the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Floridas and the Tennessees of the world are making. And I just think the ACC just got in a situation where they wanted to be good, and they've been good in the past.
Yeah.
But we're playing at a whole new level now, Rod. Whole new level.
Yeah. Well, it is. And so next question, have you had a sit down with Commissioner Jim Phillips of the ACC? And do you think we're going to see in, say, 5 years, if you're looking out, which we can do, some of these schools go back to the Big East pops up again and makes a big deal. The ACC contracts. Some of these teams traveling across the country from the original Pac-12 say, no mas, we're done with this, because I think that very likely might happen, because in 1923, we had over 100 years ago, we had 23 teams in the Southern Conference.
Yeah.
And that became the SEC and became the ACC in 1953.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting decision on the part of the ACC. Can you generate the funds? I mean, there's not a whole lot of oil money in the ACC.
Yeah.
And if you can do it, what's the source of revenue? And so they've got to do something. And I'm anxious to see all these rumors about North Carolina and them going to the Big Ten and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that any of that is true.
Yeah.
But from the academic side, they're all part of the academic consortium. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting decision. But as the late great dearly departed Bobby Bowden once said, "Son, the train is leaving the station. You got to decide whether or not you're going to be on it." Same thing for the ACC. Train's leaving the station. It's pulling out pretty quickly, and you better decide if you want to be on it or not.
Agree. And so a couple of more things before you go. And thank you so much, Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart, with us on this Tuesday morning, the next to last day of 2025. What are you thinking? What's got you captivated in these playoffs? Because kind of let us know what's on your mind, what you're going to be writing about, how people can follow you, and progress on the book.
All right. Well, I'll start shamelessly with the progress on the book. We've had so much fun. I had lunch with Barry Switzer at the Midway Deli in Norman, Oklahoma. Okay.
Wow.
And sat there and he goes there every Friday, and people come in just to sign things, and he's at there and he is having an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to the Midnight Yell at Texas A&M. 35,000 people at Kyle Field at midnight to go through that. It's been that kind of stuff. I had a private Coach Steve Spurrier and I had a reception thrown for us in Gainesville. Yeah. Brendan was there. We had an absolute blast with all that. So that's the kind of stuff I've been sort of gathering hither, tither, and yon. And doggone it, one of the things I did was in September. I went to Vonore, Tennessee to visit Roy Kramer.
Yeah.
Spent an afternoon with him.
God.
And then not too long ago, we lost him. So
Yeah.
it's been an incredible journey that I still got a lot. I've been having a blast researching it. I got to hunker down on some of my writing, but it's been a joy. As far as following what I do, I think I told you that I don't have as much stuff out there this year because I'm so busy researching this book. But I'm the stuff that I do write is on Football Writers Association of America, and is there. And I am fascinated by the playoffs. This has been so much fun. Do we have some things we got to work out? Sure, and there always is, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, what makes you so important to college football is we've all grown up in that book. The 19 of Green is another example.
That takes you right to Amazon. If you guys want to purchase it, that's the paperback. You can get your Kindle version there too. $16 on paperback, $16 on Kindle.
Thanks,
yeah. Hey, look, and that's so special. We love you to be part of this channel. I mean, because going forward, it's going to be more important than ever that genuine people who love the game and that know what they're talking about. You, Buddy Martin, all of y'all you are more important than you've ever been. In case you're wondering.
Let me throw this in there before we finish up here today. On the front page, not the sports page, but the front page of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I walked up there and picked it up, and there's a lengthy piece on Lauren Smith. Those of us who have covered the SEC and covered the University of Georgia, when I got to Athens as a student in 1974, I was already under Claude Felton's wing. Everybody knows who Claude is.
Yep.
But the two people who took me under their wing were Dan McGill and Lauren Smith. All right. And I grew up learning about Georgia and all about from those three men, Claude Felton, Lauren Smith, and Dan McGill. They taught me all about Georgia and what Georgia was in the SEC was all about. So if you're reading online today, go on the AJC and read the long story about Lauren Smith. And I did not know this. Lauren Smith is 87 years old.
He is amazing. We have him on the show a lot. And Lauren, what do you got? Well, they're at Georgia having a hard time holding off this Alabama offensive. All right, it's 81 seconds left. The sky is falling. The sun is nearing the surface of the earth. My God, cats and dogs living together. But you know what the thing about Lauren is? He is so gracious with his time. Back during the virus, I called and left him a voicemail. I'd never met him. I'd always heard him. So I'm going to get him on the show. We just started this. He calls back 3 days later, leaving me this voicemail. I apologize. I don't go in the office much right now. They won't let us in without a hazmat suit on. And he comes on the show. And when he tells a story about some of these golfers at the Masters, he was telling about it. Some guy, he goes, he was a crusty, cagey old fella. And he'll tell about, he can tell a story. It's like Samuel Clemens is still alive. Mm-hmm. And this is why, and whenever he responds, and technology wise, he's everybody's challenged. I mean, we are, but he finds a way to make it work. But he's still, when you go to the Georgia pregame show for the radio network, the line of people that are lined up to go get a picture with him, and he's so gracious and so kind and benevolent. He'll walk over there, put his on. He's one of a kind, and he was 19 when he came from Wrightsville. He goes, I was an old country boy. I'd never been anywhere, Georgia. And he's been to 66 consecutive Masters.
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely. It's been, I'm proud to call him a friend. And so it's been something to watch. And the fact that he's still doing it after all these years, I appreciate his friendship.
And you know what you just said? The reason he's still doing it after all these years is because he's still doing it all these years later.
That's right. When they started the Georgia Tailgate Show in 1984, we didn't used to have these 3-hour tailgate shows, but now we could sell advertising and rack up. But Lauren was the obvious producer of that because he knew everybody. He knows everybody.
Yeah.
And so that would be great. Lauren is something.
Yeah.
I always tell Rob, don't piss off your caddy, your wife, or your producer.
That's right.
Your three things you don't.
Sage advice, Brandon.
Sage advice.
Yeah, but he really is cool because he genuinely, and his story about Herschel Walker, he said, "Y'all, there's a big running back down there in Wrightsville," and said the coaches kind of scoffed like there's not even a red light there. 2 weeks later, headline sports section, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Wrightsville Jr. runs 9,500. He said they couldn't get down there fast enough, and so that's how it goes. But Tony,
I just wanted to ask you before you go about the Lane Kiffin's. What's your take on his? He leaves the game early. Does that matter? What was your take on all that?
Lane Kiffin is an interesting chapter in an interesting year. He got another job that he liked better and took it. And the other stuff is just conversation. And of course, that's what we all do is conversation. But Lane Kiffin's going to do well at LSU. And I am anxious to see where the Ole Miss team, where their head is. Where is their head? First of all, you got to got all that stuff straightened out, even if you're playing an easy team. Well, they're not playing an easy team. They're playing what might be the best team in the country. Yeah. And so I'm anxious to see what they did. And Lane Kiffin is always going to be a story. And it's going to be a story now that he's at LSU. And I'm kind of anxious to see how it comes. And I don't know what's going to happen here. I think Georgia's going to beat Ole Miss, and that will close the book on that chapter. But maybe not. We'll see. That's what makes it interesting. Stories, Rob. We talk about it all the time. Stories.
Yeah, it is the storylines. Yeah.
What's your take on John Summerall? John Summerall at Florida, and then sort of the DJ Lagway exodus and all that kind of stuff. You think he's got a handle on that, or?
Well, looks like a good hire to me based on what I saw when they played in their conference championship game. So it looks pretty good. And look, the fact of the matter is, Brendan, you and I and 5 guys in the parking lot should be able to recruit a great roster for Florida. Okay, there's too many great players within a 5-hour radius of Gainesville not to be able to do it. And I think he's going to have success. They've got to get their offense figured out. The quarterback. Quarterback's going to always be a story, and everybody better get used to that. Quarterbacks are the ultimate starting quarterbacks are the ultimate free agent in all of this, and they will be able to name their price, and everybody's going to have to get used to that.
Yeah. But what's your, we talked a lot about Kirby Smart and stuff, but we talk about great coaching. Summerall says he wants to win. He wants to win right now. How do you win right now in the SEC right now? Like how do you think you pull that off? I know that's a bigger question, but that's a bold statement. Yeah.
Well, it's a bold statement to win right now, because right now there's there's Georgia, there's Tennessee, there's Auburn, there's Alabama, there's Texas, there's Texas A&M, on and on and on. The conference is as deep and as balanced as it's ever been. And but all I know is, having been around the University of Florida football program a lot, are the resources there to be successful? The answer is obviously yes. And I don't know who Florida's sugar daddy is, who their Phil Knight is, but you got to go find you one of those. But let's put it this way: you can't be put in a situation now in college football where money is an issue. It can't be. Whatever you've got to take to spend, whatever you got to spend to compete with the best ranked team in your league is what you got to spend. And now, if you have a board of regents or a president who doesn't believe that way, now you got a problem.
Yeah, and also you can have
Gary Condren, by the way, if you're looking for the sugar daddy.
And if you're not careful, and that's why the IRS will construe too much money coming from one source to a charity, a foundation, or a .org as a personal foundation for that individual or family. So when you get one booster that runs everything, it can be dangerous if they make a bad call. I was texting Lauren there, and he said, I'm on standby to come on. I said, we're talking about you, but Tony, that's what's so special about you. And I know we kept you long. Yancy's on his way down. I think he must have gotten to New Orleans a minute ago, but this is why we love it, because your knowledge, and that's what we need to do. So we look forward to having you on after the play.
I think when we all sit in gloom and doom, and then we get Mr. College Football comes on and says, calm down.
Calm down.
Settle.
And it does. You calm the waters, but it goes back to a great quote I read and that Coach Dye wrote about his quarterbacks. He goes, I used to stand in the backfield with them, and I never allowed my quarterbacks to have a negative thought in their mind. Mm-hmm. And he said if they had something going on off the field, Jeff Berger, you name it, from Cedartown, Georgia, which is on the Silver Comet biking trail, you don't let negativity. What did Gandhi say? I'll never allow other people to walk through my mind with their dirty feet. So great stuff.
It freaks me out, that one. That one doesn't have the mind and the feet thing.
Well, you know what I mean, Tony, don't you?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, look, are you going to go down to New Orleans for the game? You're going to watch it from the studio?
No, sir. I'm going to be watching it from here. Obviously, I will be here for the semifinals, which are at the Peach Bowl. And I'm definitely, regardless of who's in the national championship game, that's sort of our end of the year. For all us folks in the sports business, that's our end of the year convention. And I look forward to that. But no, I will not be in New Orleans. But hey, January 1 is going to be an incredible day. Are you kidding me? You look at those 3 games, my word. So I've learned through this process. I learn a lot more. I see a lot more football if I stay at home.
Yeah.
And so I'm good with that.
Tony, next time I'm in Atlanta, we had a guy on Friday. One last thing, Clark Humble. Have you met him? The college football super fan.
I have not met him.
Lives in Sandy Springs. Friend of mine met him a couple of weeks ago. Said get him on the show. Last Tuesday, I called him. He was on the show Friday. He's been to all 136 venues. He has got 3 nonprofits that he runs, and one of his partners, it's about keeping children who have parents that have mother or father that have been in prison out of prison. Said the normal rate is 70%. You're going to go with their foundation. It's 1%. You know who his most important partner is? Bubba Cathy of the Cathy family. Isn't that I'm going to introduce you to him. I'll take us all out to dinner if you'll go with us. We can go to lunch at the Mad Italian, okay?
All right.
Hey, thank you, man. Happy New Year. Appreciate your time.
Happy New Year, guys. Take care.
Love it. Brendan, great. I tell you, that's exactly why I get chills when I think about the history of this game. But when Tony's on, or your dad and friends, all these great, I mean, I'm leaving people out, but you can't allow it. And your knowledge of history, when you said something Friday, Rodney's going to be with us in just a second. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. So, you talked about going into a game at the Air Force Academy. You said once you get on the campus at Colorado Springs, I got a good friend, Tim Horton, who coaches running backs at Air Force Academy now. He calls the underground, that's a joke, the submarine, the training complex. But this is what's so cool about you. A lot of things cool about you. But you've been to games at Wyoming. You've been to games at Laramie, haven't you?
I worked on TV trucks.
Okay. So
I've been, and prior to that, I'm Buddy's son. So I toured when I was a kid, and then, I worked, everyone's freelance 1099, but I started as a cable junkie and actually a runner. I was going to pick up waters and all that stuff, and then I worked my way into the TV trucks, and then on to the NFL and getting NBA, NHL, and college football packages, working for a Big 12 network, working for what was the Mountain West network for a while. And so, I saw a lot of the West Coast football, and I went to a lot of those stadiums, going out to see a game at USC, go down on I was on the field for a couple games there. So you just, it becomes your work environment. I've had my hand stepped on by Shaq, on the side of a basketball court. And so it really is, you do see a different side of it. And then you see a different side of it in the TV truck, because Tony just said, oh, what's it like? And, like I like to watch it on TV. Well, you want to watch it on TV, go to a TV truck. You have hundreds of monitors, and you're asking the engineer, hey, can you get that game here? And I want that game here. And I want that game here. So,
you know what? Speaking of somebody following you, my dad was at a Grizzlies game one time. A friend of his had courtside seats. You pay a lot to sit on the court. And Yao Ming was playing. Remember Yao Ming? He was diving for a loose ball. Diving for a loose ball, landed in my dad's lap. And he said, that is the largest human being I've ever seen. And he was like, sorry, Very, very apologetic. But and
Basketball's tough. There are certain games that are harder. I did slow motion replays, so like for a long time. So when you got to think about a basketball game, you're scoring, no stoppage, right? So you're loading up your replays and you're waiting. There's a rebound. We got to get the 3-pointer, and then the guy gets inbounds, and so you got to retell that story and replay it so people see it.
Yeah, and you know what? I love to see how the guys react on TV. Their reaction to a great play. Brett Musburger one time said, "You just let the camera pan. If a team loses on a last-second field goal, you don't need to say, 'Look at the faces on those plays.' Let the camera just pan."
Yeah, well, look, it's a dance, all that stuff, to get to tell that great story, and you're limited to how many cameras you have in there and how big the show is and all that stuff. Great directors and producers, really know how to put that together. But it it is really you miss it a lot. Excuse me, I miss it a lot because it was such a fun way to, I guess, tell a story. It's the original reality TV is sports.
Yeah. It is.
It really is. And
you said that. That's your quote.
Yeah. And
right.
now what we do now and how I do now with the 5 monitors and all that stuff, it all stems from learning what I learned in TV. And now we're in the streaming sense. So it's much of the same, but we're doing talk radio, right?
Well, and another thing, like what happens in live TV, when I was a reporter, on one weekend I had an opportunity to go down. I had a day off, went down to Tallahassee. Bob Neal and Tim Foley were doing the TBS game of the week, and it was LSU at Florida State. And so I was kind of the spotter, in between those two guys, giving them information. And Bob Neal always kept this giant big gulp on his desk there when he was broadcasting the games. Bob Neal, a great broadcaster, Dave Neal's father. And I got so excited. A fight broke out between LSU and Florida State in Tallahassee. It was a Monday night wrestling brawl. I mean, everybody. And I got so excited, my hands went bam. And of course, I knocked Bob Neal's big gulp all over everybody.
Well, you're not allowed to have drinks in there, Robert.
He did. That was his big gulp. It was a Coke, I'm sure. But anyway, and when he just took a thing like a Ouija, a squeegee board, wiped it off, didn't miss a beat, and said, "Happens all the time, young man. Don't worry about it. Shake it off." All right. Now look. Yeah. Rodney Orr requested the email, and he's going to get it here.
He just rolled in.
Yeah. Wait. Indian Pass Pirate from the Forgotten Coast.
And by the way, if you're down by Indian Pass, I love it down there.
Yeah. You get to Cape San Blas, Port St. Joe, Apalachicola Bay, Mexico Beach, and then you keep going around down there to the Steenhatchee River. That's way down to Big Bend toward Inverness, Florida.
A little south. Inverness is down the way from me. South of me.
Yeah, way down south. Okay. But it's beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Hey, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, folks. Everybody do yourself a favor. Monday night, Sports 56, WHBQ.com, 6 p.m. Central, and all over on Super Talk Mississippi. Yancy, are you riding the train? You taking the bus? You flying? You riding a Harley? Are you driving your truck to New Orleans? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Now we're just trying to round up the family and get everybody gone. It's much easier with 1 than 4, I'll tell you that.
Well, hey, there he was. Rodney Orr is coming in with us as well. Let's talk about it. We just had Tony Barnhart on. Ole Miss and Georgia match, round 2 of this prize fight, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. Whatever we hear, the fans are going to be in there. There'll be, I'm sure, a record crowd, biggest crowd in the history of the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I don't know about the biggest crowd, man. It's going to be jam full. Obviously the Ole Miss fans are probably a little bit more excited than Georgia. This been there, done that for them. Heck, I think they played there last year in the same quarterfinals. So, indicative of the ticket pricing is much more expensive on the Ole Miss side than the Georgia side. So that kind of lets you know. And these tickets for this bowl game are, I think, twice as much as any other playoff game there is. So, yeah, the New Orleans Sugar Bowl is a special place in the Ole Miss family's heart. It took them, 30 years to get there, and I believe they're on their 4th in the last decade. So it's, I guess they're making up for lost time. But yeah, there will be a caravan of Ole Miss people down there. I would expect 60,000, 70,000 Ole Miss people to be down there for sure.
Well, there's a lot of Ole Miss people in Louisiana. I mean, the common border in New Orleans. You know, you go south of Jackson, New Orleans is kind of their capital. North Mississippi, it's Memphis. So yeah, it's kind of a home away from home. All right, offensively, give us your thoughts on Charlie Weiss Jr. Looks like they flew into New Orleans on the Patriots jet. No chance that came from connections of Charlie Weiss Sr. Or Joe Judge having been a former NFL coach. But how cool was that?
Yeah, you know, I actually learned there was a long thread about this. That jet is specially made for football teams, big, large people. So they actually rent that jet out to different organizations, different clubs when they're not flying it. So that was not unique to Ole Miss. So sorry to say that, but it does.
Yeah,
you know, doing it first.
Yancy, they don't own that jet, right? That's a jet that they probably get from the airlines for the season. No.
I'm not sure if they own it or not. I know the jet was built specifically for football players, large linemen, and the nature like that. So it is made for chartering, football teams, larger people. So, but it does say, doing it first class, and that's the way they should be doing it. Yeah.
Can you hear?
I can hear you clearly.
Brendan?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you had muted. Well, what he said about flying the big people on those planes. I tell you, you remember during the virus, some schools resorted to taking a bus on those long road trips, and that didn't do a lot for morale. What's the psyche of this Ole Miss team getting ready for Georgia? They've played once. Now Lane Kiffin's gone. Pete Golding is the head coach now, so he cannot be myopically focused on the defense. Talk about how that shared responsibility first with the defense worked out, obviously in the first game, quite well.
Yeah, man, it's going to be different, right? They had over 900 yards of offense through 3 quarters last year between the two teams. Neither one of them could stop one another. And I'm not talking about turnover type scores. I'm talking about they were all over 75 yards, 5 drives for each teams, all went over 75 yards. Georgia did kick a couple field goals in there, so they didn't actually convert on a couple, but they drove it up and down the field. Ole Miss did not stop Georgia, did not make them punt the ball one time. I believe they kicked 2 or 3 field goals, but they never punted. And then both teams since then have dramatically improved their defenses. Ole Miss has had 3 or 4 position changes. Players that were playing back to that point are no longer playing. Other guys took their roles and they've really blossomed. Jalen Braxton really stands out there. Number 2, that is playing he's a swing guy in the defensive backfield between corner, mostly now corner, does play some nickel and a little bit of safety. And then you have Jones, number 44 there at linebacker, that took number 30 and 26 spot there. So, and then Princewell has really, really developed there at defensive end. So there's been some personnel changes for Ole Miss. I'm not as familiar with Georgia's to know if there were personnel changes since that point, but both of them were giving up 21.8 points. Ironically enough, both teams through that Ole Miss Georgia game for the season. Georgia's been giving up 10 points since that, and Ole Miss has been giving up 14.2 points since that, and both of them schedules stepped up, so we're not talking about playing a bunch of non-conference games against the likes of Slippery Rocks that have padded their stats. So both defenses for both teams have really found themselves since that first matchup. So, it's going to be a total different game, I suspect. I think it's going to be one maybe 28-24 type game, 31-28. I don't think it's going to be in the 45-42 type game like that we saw in the first one where they just ran up and down the field. Ole Miss's biggest question mark right now is, absolutely unequivocally, it's the status of Lacey. I mean, he's going to go the running back, but he's got a banged up shoulder, and he's not going to be toting the ball 30, 35 times a game like he has all season long. So Ole Miss is going to have to alter their game plan with that, because Lacey has not missed a down. This guy has been as durable can be, and that's going to dramatically change Ole Miss's offense, and that's going to be what you're going to have to watch in this game.
All right, What's the actual height and weight of Kewan Lacey?
He's not a big guy. He's just under 6'1". He's kind of tall. I think he's 6'1.5", and he's about 208, 205. He's not small. He's not 180, 175 by any means. He's not 5'9", 5'10" type running back, but he's not the 225, 230 type tailback. So he's just right there in that middle. He's not small and he's not big.
What he plays bigger than he is. I mean, and
Yeah.
he's from Louisiana. Which town's he from?
No, he's actually from Dallas. He's outside of Dallas.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
Dallas. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Christmas night, man, I was with my friends, some of the best friends I have, Tripp and Margaret Monger. Margaret Ite from Natchez. Great girls. Great family. All Ole Miss. I mean, dyed in the wool Ole Miss people. Son-in-law Tyler Ellis is with Oxford Orthopedic. He's one of the team doctors at Ole Miss. And we're talking about, and the question came up, Bobby Wade, all these people asking me, what is Trinidad Chambliss going to do? And what is Kewan Lacey going to do? What do you think is going to happen with them? Why wouldn't they stay at Ole Miss?
Well, I think in Trinidad's case, they're waiting for the waiver, right? And
Yes,
I mean, he
yes.
should get it. I mean, the kid's only played. People don't realize he's only played 2 years of football. The first 2 years of he redshirted his first year. The second year, he played in the first 2 games, and he missed the next 10 games. He had repeated mono. He was sick, and they filed for another year of eligibility for him. Tom Mars is taking on the case. Everybody knows who Tom Mars is because the NCAA has been slow playing it all. I mean, this thing was filed, I think, in September, and here we are in December, about to be January, and they still haven't gotten a decision on it. If he gets the waiver, which I think in the end he probably will with the NCAA, you never know. So it wouldn't be surprising either way. A lot of people suspect that the NCAA will deny the waiver and then they'll appeal it, kind of like Pavia did last year and several others, and they'll have more success in the appellate court than they will with the NCAA. Regardless, if he does get another year, I think everybody would be very surprised if he were not at Ole Miss next year. The guy, kind of his mentor and the guy that he's very, very, very close with is Joe Judge, the quarterback coach there at Ole Miss, and he was retained on the staff. As far as Lacey, the guy that he's very, very close with is Kevin Smith, the running back coach that is now at LSU. Obviously, he's coaching through the playoffs at Ole Miss, but he'll be at LSU next year. So, that's going to make it tough, I think. We'll see, but the relationships are there for Chambliss to stay at Ole Miss, I would think, and for Lacey to be at LSU. But we'll see how it goes down. You never know. Money's going to talk. Ole Miss is in a very good financial spot. I know LSU is as well. The money that has been thrown around for him between Ole Miss and LSU is probably going to be twice as much as any other running back makes in the country. So it could be one of those good old bidding wars, but it's above the table, not underneath the table like it used to be.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that these kids, just some of them 6, 7, 8, 9 years of college. What about kids? Your kid goes to college, graduates, files an appeal to move back in the house with you. Ain't gonna happen. I got the speech when I was young. Parents give you 2 things: roots and wings. Start flapping, boy. Find your own place to live. That's what my parents told me. I mean, it's the way it goes, Yancy. You know what I'm talking. Hey.
Oh, I know. I wouldn't. The last thing I'd have wanted to do is move back in my house after college. That would have been quite humiliating. I think that would be the best word to put it.
Yeah, my oldest sister, moved to New York after college for about 3 years. Worked up there on Wall Street, and it was exciting. Moved back home temporarily. My mother said nothing will destroy the relationship between a mother and a child more quickly than for them to graduate college, move out, and move back home. She goes, I'm not going to kill her, but I'm close. I mean, but they love one another. Hey,
yeah, I think my wife's already about to kill our teenage girls, so I can't imagine after.
You're just like, help me. Hey, let's bring in Rodney Orr. Rodney, Tighter Insider. It's only $48 a year. It's the best value. I've been doing it since 1996. Rodney, Rose Bowl, Alabama, and Indiana. You're going to talk about it tonight on Tighter Insider TV with your co-host, Gary Harris, who's also a regular team member like you on this show. First off, thanks for sharing your time with us, and let's talk some Alabama football.
Well, what do you want to know, Rob?
Well, we got you on, and I know this technology
Yeah.
Bottom line, everybody knows who you are. You got Alabama covered. This matchup,
Yeah.
it's straight. Alabama's only run the ball for over 100 yards, a rusher one time this
Uh-huh.
year. It's a different kind of team, but they're
Right.
11-2. And Ellis Johnson gave me one of the best quotes ever. He said, "There's two kinds of kids we got at Alabama: the kids that wanted to live up to the expectations of Alabama, and the kids that wanted to live off of, hey, I'm at Alabama. You got to take care of me. I'm great because y'all signed me." Looks like y'all got a roster full of hungry kids because you found a way to win when a lot of people counted you out, especially that lady on Twitter after the Florida State loss.
Well, I mean, yeah, they've had a lot of ups and downs. There's no doubt. I mean, it started with that game, but they bounced back. They won 8 in a row, and then, things were really looking great. And Oklahoma comes to town November the 15th, and Alabama turns the ball over 3 times, gives them 17 points off turnovers, and loses a 2-point game. But they found a way to rebound again. They go to Auburn. They have that last minute drive. They strip the ball of Cam Coleman there at the end. Again, they find ways when when their backs are to the wall. They found ways throughout the season to kind of bounce back. And, after a miserable performance against Georgia, as you know, in the SEC championship game, literally one of the worst, offensive performances I've seen at Alabama in a while. I think that they had the great bounce back after just a terrible first 23 minutes of the Oklahoma game. They stormed back. They outscored Oklahoma 34-7. Oklahoma had some mistakes in that game, several mistakes like Alabama did in the game here in Tuscaloosa. So, with all that said, there's been a lot of ups and downs. This team's battle tested. They've had their backs to the wall, and now they go to Pasadena. And I guess the big question right now is there just a few days before the game? Let's see, what is today? Tuesday. So you got 2 days before the game. And what's the weather going to be in Pasadena? Because I think that could be a real factor.
Well, it never rains in Southern California.
Well, they're saying it's going to rain, here on Thursday. So, we'll see. I mean, if it's a wet field, if it's a rainy condition, then I would say that the advantage certainly would go to Indiana because of what you pointed out earlier. This Alabama team's just not been able to run the football, and that's been a major concern. I think it's something that Alabama fans are really kind of concerned about, just as far as the style of play. We'll see. But I do think the weather conditions could certainly play a role.
Yancy. Yancy, you there? Okay. Well, all right, Rodney.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, okay. I was just going to say, looking at this matchup, Ole Miss didn't play Alabama this year. How much of Indiana have you seen based on, I know Rodney studied them a lot, but how many people watched an entire Indiana game in the South this year? I wonder.
I did for the Ohio State. That's the first. I probably have not seen more than a quarter of Indiana total before that Ohio State game. But Indiana's they're legit. I mean, they got the best. Who I think, as far as in-game coaching, schematic coaching the country, there in Signetti, he's elite. And it's going to be really a really interesting matchup. I think there's no secret of what Alabama's thorn in their side is being able to run the football, and how far can they go with that? I don't know. They've made it this far. That's a long ways without being able to rush the football. A lot of pressure on your quarterback when you play that kind of football. We'll see. We'll see.
Well,
I
Rodney,
think that's a good way to sum it up. Actually, we'll see. I mean, because again, I mean, what else can you really say? It's just, you've got to be balanced. You've got to have some balance, and it'll be interesting to see if Alabama can generate some.
Yeah, guys, look, we unfortunately running out of time and staying to the hour, but both of you, we're going to get you back on talking a lot about these games, but this has been a hell of a season. We got a lot going on. I haven't even picked the Alabama game yet. I'm going to wait and see what you say on Tyler Insider tonight. Both of y'all have an awesome time watching these games, and everybody watching. Most often we see the face of Christ and the least among us. Check out all of our sponsors: Landers Ford, Hewlett and Dunn, Rumble Boxing Gym, hempforpros.com. For executive producer Brendan Martin, we'll see you tonight on The Lowdown with Lauren Meadows. Thanks for watching.